G'day everyone and welcome to Hayes Homestead. If this is your first time at the channel, allow me to briefly fill you in. My name's Tobias and together with my wife Danny, our daughter Indy and our beautiful puppy Tala, we moved here just over a year and a half ago and we haven't stopped doing projects since we got here. In the last episode we finished off the office and that gave us a space to work in, but at the end of that episode we received the materials for probably one of the biggest projects on our homestead, and that is the fencing. Hopefully at the end of this episode we will be welcoming some new faces to our family, and we're under quite a tight deadline, so it's pretty important that we get moving on this and get these fences in so our new family members don't escape. So join us on our adventure and consider subscribing and leave us a comment if there's anything you want to see. We try to reply to everybody, so we look forward to sharing our adventure with you. But for now, let's get on with it. It looks like the pigs have come back for another round of destroy the farm, so we need to do something to keep them out, because I don't want them destroying all the pasture, because we need the pasture this winter to feed the animals that are hopefully coming quite soon. So there's this one fly that's been following me for like 10 minutes. Go away. Anyway, while I fight with that tiny idiot, let me just show you what I mean. Pigs are nature's bulldozers, and what they do is they basically plough everything up, killing all the grass off, leaving weeds to come and take over in its place. Why is this a problem? Well, not only does it leave the ground really bumpy and difficult to get over, but it also means that it's killing all the grass off that we need to feed our animals with, and as you can see by this picture, they leave everything in a big old mess. So it's quite important that we get rid of them because their population has exploded. First job on the list is to trim down this grass because I need to move this timber, and of course that means pulling the line out of this line trimmer about 100 times because it's bloody useless. Now, although you can't really tell in this shot, the gap between these trees is about 5 meters and these boards are 4.8, so it was quite a squeeze, but look at me go like a pro, managed to get it through there, no dramas. Next job is to get rid of this pile of dirt that's been here since we've done the driveway. So backhoe on and away we go. Who doesn't love a bit of digging? Now all of these posts need painting before I stick them in the ground, so I wrote the father-in-law into giving me a hand, but unfortunately all I can find was a few of these sawhorses to sit the posts on while I gave them a paint, which wasn't really very productive because I could only do a few at a time, so I needed a solution, and a solution I did find. Now I've got to hand it to him, Toan is always ready to jump in on any job that we've got going on whenever they come down. I'm pretty sure he's looking forward to retirement and spending a bit more time down here with us, so I really hope he likes fencing. Finally earning their keep. Picasso. Jamie doing a fantastic job. Look at you go. At this rate they'll be painted in 3 to 5 business days. So we roped the whole family into painting these posts because there was 170 posts to paint and just one weekend to do them. So hats off to everyone for giving it a crack because we managed to get it done. to Anne taking a well-earned break because I think he painted at least half of the post, so mate, he can sit down as long as he likes. The temperature dropping, it was time to light that big old burner again. Man, this thing keeps the house toasty and warm all winter long. I don't mind lighting it up, but man does this thing go through a lot of firewood. Keeps me busy through winter, that's for sure. Now you'll notice I'm not setting these posts with concrete, and there's a very good reason for this, and I'll get to that later on, but using rammed earth posts means that they don't rot out as quick because concrete isn't very porous and it helps the water sit around the bottom of the post. So because of the type of soil we've got and all the bedrock, actually doing this rammed earth method is a lot cheaper and just as efficient as using concrete. So this is the method that we went with, and it saved us a bunch of money. Has been the weather for these guys to come out. This one over here, this one over here, you'll probably be able to see it much better, but definitely know not to eat that one. But I mean, whether you call it fungi,
mushrooms are space penises.
No, Jeremy, whatever you call it, in my eyes they're still fun guys. I'm a dad, I'm allowed to make those jokes. Lots and lots of that growing everywhere, but if you know the type that they are, then by all means leave it in the comments, because I don't feel confident enough to start trying them, because I don't particularly need that sort of trip right now. But yeah, if you know what these fungi are, then by all means please leave a comment and let us know if you know. I know a couple of them potentially, but I know what a fly agaric is, and I know that you should never eat it, and I know that they're incredibly poisonous. So you won't just speak to God, you bloody well meet him. So before I get any of these rails on or finish this sort of last bit that goes across here, I need to get rid of this tree behind me, which is really seriously leaning. It's only a matter of time before it falls on the fence, and then that's just a headache. I don't really want to deal with, so I'll just sort this out now and then I don't have to worry about it falling on the fence later, and that's one problem I've eliminated. We'll just cut it up and we'll burn it next year. But yeah, all good, just extra work for doing one simple job such as fencing. But hey, if you like hard work, well, this life is for you. So yeah, let's just crack on with it and get it done. I was only off by, I think, 300 mil, but there was so much weight on it. I didn't even get finished cutting through the back of it, and it just went, which is probably why it shifted a little bit. Plus, it rolled onto its side, which I knew was going to happen. So, I mean, I only really just like clipped one of the posts just here, but I mean, nothing crazy. So, yeah, let's get cutting up. Let's get the loppers out, start pulling all this foliage off so we can mulch it, and then we'll get onto the branches so then we can dry it and burn it next year. Let's go. I'd actually forgotten just how quick and easy it is to split green timber. So actually I just ran the axe over it all and now it's all split. Once it's dry it'll be ready to burn, which is great, so I don't have to split it later. So job done, not bad. Just got to get rid of that green rubbish. I'll probably pick this up tomorrow and onward and upward. Let's get on with it. Too much to do. So for anybody keeping livestock, you have to have a livestock ramp to easily get them on and off transport or what have you. And we're going to go with the static ramp. So we're actually building a ramp that's going to stay here full time, just because this is the most accessible part of the property in relation to the paddocks, because this area is quite low and we've leveled this up so it's a little higher and it's flatter. So there's actually not going to be as steep a drop off the ramp for anything that we unload. We've dug ourselves a hole. It's about 300 by 300 and it's about 600 deep, which is not optimal. I would have preferred a bit deeper, but it's bedrock down here, so I can't really do too much about that. We can add some bracing to make it a bit more stable, but it's not going to sink anywhere. It's not going to be an issue at the end of the day, and the old boys back in the day probably didn't sink their cattle ramps down into the ground. It was probably just plonked on top. We will do what we can, and if it doesn't work, we can always change it later. So this hole is quite important because we take it off this post here, which is the last fencing post, and then everything will go that way from here. So hole is ready to go for our post, and we can take everything off that, and then we will use timbers and bracing support underneath to build a really sturdy, stable, reliable ramp for our livestock so we can take care of them properly. So now our post is level and square to the adjoining post. We can start putting some of this soil back in the bottom of the hole and tamping it down with the fencing post. Remember to use the dry, rocky, sandy stuff first to go in the bottom. Really tamp it hard, and as you're doing it, just make sure you check that your post is still standing upright, because putting the tamper in there can shift the bottom of the post a little, and you don't want to end up with wonky posts because it's just going to cause headaches. It could cause it to collapse, and it might also cause you problems trying to square everything up when you're putting any ramping material into it. Checking that it's square and true along the way is a 5 to 10 second check that will save you potentially hours of extra work later on. So keep that in mind. We're going to get some of the soil back in the hole and get these posts set. So even though we've only put 600 mil in the ground and we've still got 2.4 meters above ground, she's very sturdy. So pretty happy with the result. That means we've got a really solid start of this. So once we start adding the bracing for the ramp and all the other bits of timber, this will only get more rigid. So I'm pretty happy with this. I haven't painted it, but I just needed to be able to start this work soon as possible. I don't have any paint left, so I'll probably just paint the top of this later. It's not a big deal because it is treated, but I definitely like it to look the same as the rest of the post. So this is good. It's a bit late now to be starting this hole, but we'll definitely get on to this tomorrow. So let's pack it up and go get some dinner. So as you can see, I have done the groundwork and cut all of my bits of main structural timber that I'm going to need to use. So my bearers, my stringers and a few steps. And I've dug the groundwork out for where the ramp is going to head down toward the ground. I've done a little cutaway here so I can put a bearer across these two posts. But because it's 200, I'm going to need to sink it a bit, so I've dug that bit out so I can make sure I've got good access with the nail gun. I will say, if you're going to do something like this, probably best to cut all your bits of timber, maybe even do a dry fit to make sure that it's all going to fit and it's all going to be level before you actually start nailing things together, because there's nothing worse than nailing it on and realizing that it's not level or it's slightly off. We want this to be absolutely level, because if it's not, it can be dangerous for livestock to get up and down it, and it could cause them to slip and hurt their feet. So we want to make sure that this is really, really level, and then that way we can eliminate any risk that we might hurt the livestock if it's wet and slippery. So a lot to do, but hopefully by the end of today we're going to have something that looks a bit more like a functional ramp. So there's a fair bit to get done, but I think it might be achievable. So let's get to work. So we've got the stringers on, and we've got some spaces between the stringers to stop them from twisting or warping or moving about, and then we've got our treads and cleats to go on next. So we're just going to do a tread and a cleat and alternate like that. Treads should be about 200 between cleats. Well, that's exactly what we've done. And cleats, from what I've researched, should be about 25 mil high. And I've done exactly that. So we're going to use the nail gun to staple all these bits on, and that'll be that bit of the ramp done. And all we've got to do is focus on the rails and putting some bracing in, and that'll be set. So the next part of this project is to obviously get some rails on to stop the animals from falling out as they use the ramp. There is one rail that I would say is probably the most important rail, and that is a rail that goes along the side of the ramp, and that is to stop any feet from slipping out as they ascend or descend the ramp, and this is to prevent serious injury in your livestock. So I'm going to say it's probably the one you should start with and then move up from there. So let's get that measured, and then we can start putting rails on top. So to do the kick rails, what we're going to do is we're going to take a measurement across the top of the stringer between each post, and then we're going to use the square to just double check our angle one more time to make sure that we cut the right mitre. Doing these little checks as you go along, honestly, it's a 5-second check that will save you A, timber when you've cut it at the wrong angle and you're trying to adjust it and it's too short, and B, it's going to save time going back and cutting boards again and again. So we can just check the angle and then we're all good. Using your pivot point, put it flush against the post, wait until it's square with the ramp, and check your angle. So just over, yep, just over 15 degrees. So that's what we're going to cut. Time for more clearing. This stuff is in the way, and this is the last of this stronghold of wattle saplings, and this is also taking up room in the paddock, so we need to get rid of this too. Wattle, quite like mimosa, is just so invasive, and once it starts growing it kind of gets everywhere, so I really wanted to eliminate this last little patch. I'm really happy that I got on with this, because man did it make a difference. Well, the rain looks a little bit persistent today, but got a rain mac, and yeah, just have to get on with it, unfortunately. Sometimes certain projects, they have a bit of a deadline, and we've got about 2.5 weeks, I think, maybe a little bit more than 2.5 weeks before the livestock arrive, and they have to be here on that day. So we've got to be ready to contain them in at least one paddock, and we can keep moving after that. But yeah, just the reality, if you've got a homestead and you're thinking about buying a homestead or some land, sometimes some jobs, they just have a deadline, and I find they help move projects along a bit quicker sometimes, but working in the rain sucks. I hate being damp, but yeah, you just got to get on with it. It's time to get to work. I love rain, but working damp is really annoying. Oh well, let's get on with it. Stop crying, Tobias. Let's go. Well, the sun has finally showed its face and it's stopped raining, so I went and put some dry socks on and my spare dry boots, and now we are going to finish moving this timber that is in the way, because we want to put a gate and everything here, and if I don't move it now, it will just be a bit awkward for me to be able to get in, because the gate actually comes across here. So we really need to get it moved, and I have been putting it off for way too long because it's such a strenuous job to do by yourself, but such is life. So today is actually going to be quite a big day, I think, not just for me, but for my neighbours as well. Everyone seems to be just jumping straight into the winter work. They're over there burning a pile at the moment. Today, this guy is finally going. All it does is just drop resin and crap all over anything that sits underneath it. It will be dead in the next year or two anyway, because given its size, it's probably at least 9 or 10 years old by now, which means it's realistically only got about 2, most 3 years left in it. So we're just going to get rid of this, use what we can in the veggie beds, compost or what have you. I don't really want to be burning all of it, so we'll see what we can do. But first job, let's get it down. So the posts are cut and now it's time to put the rails on, and for that I made a couple of jigs because I'm by myself and I want to make sure that as I put the boards on, the ends of the boards butt up against each other in the center of the post, even though the land contours, so the post height contours, so obviously it's not going to be just one long flat level rail. Basically these will enable me to butt the boards up against each other, so you just literally throw it on the back of the post. So remember the back of the post, because once these are nailed on you're going to need to be able to pull it off. So if you put it this way around, so if you get it on here and you put the board on, well, that's nailed on, you're never going to get it off. So you're going to make sure that you're making this jig, you think about how you want it to go. So I've measured down from the top, boards are 100, so I've got a 100 gap my board, and so on and so on. So this should hopefully make things a bit quicker with it just being me, that I can just pop them on and that's it. Look who came in with the goods. Love these mules. Danny decided to drag Tala out to come pay me a little visit, which is always nice when you're working. A couple of little friendly faces, cheers the day up a bit. How the hell have I missed this bit? Now this electric fencing supply stuff was left over from the previous tenants, and man did they tie it up in a knot. But I was glad I didn't have to purchase all this because it ain't cheap. Quite frankly, I don't even know if I'm doing this right. I just sort of saw some pictures. I think it goes sort of wrapped around the wire, so I basically wrap it around, and then I use my trusty screwdriver to just pull it around the rest of the way until it clips over, and then I get this top wire and just loop it round, get my screwdriver back again and try and loop it back through the wire. I know building things and putting things together is something I can generally work out by myself, but all of this livestock stuff is really new to me. Well, we've got the fading afternoon light, and I'm going to try and get as many star pickets in the time that I've got left using one of these. So we're going to get these posts in to cordon off the paddock where I need to keep the animals so then they don't get into areas where they could potentially escape. We will do as many as we can, unless, however, because of the light, this is typically when the pigs come out. So if I see the pigs, then I will down tools, run into the house and grab the rifle, because their numbers are really exploding at the moment. We've got to get rid of them. They are literal bulldozers, and there are too many of them out at the moment. In fact, they are quite a problem in this area, and a lot of people are really fed up with them. Let's get on with it with what light we've got left. Talking too much, should be working. Let's get on with it. Hey, Skip! Skip! Hey, come and drive the tractor. Stop sleeping. Give us a hand. God, they're so lazy. Freshly dug. This is like the equivalent of a wombat apartment block. And these things will go 40 meters under the ground. So over here is the rest of it. So it will probably go all underneath here, which would be why there's these little divots in here, is probably just where existing holes have all collapsed. So there's not really much you can do about it. They're protected, and quite frankly, if they weren't here doing it, it'd be something else. So it's pretty brisk this morning, and I'm talking quietly because everyone else is still in bed. But essentially, today's the day that they arrive, and I really have to get out and finish doing the fencing, get the earthing stakes in, and sort out their water trough. But I think definitely doable, but it's freezing this morning. It's so cold. Foggy, very misty this morning, so I have to head out and most likely come eyeball to eyeball with some roos, because they love this sort of weather. I've got about an hour before I have to jump in the car and drive off to meet my good mate Rob and get the livestock on the truck. Today's the day, so very exciting thing happening here, quite a big milestone, and well, we just have to be ready for it. So a lot of hard work, all boils down to this, so let's hope it all pays off and I can keep the animals in the area that they're meant to stay. It is cold. Let's get on with it.
Learn how, learn how to let it go. You better learn how, learn how to let it go.
Oh, cow.
A little bit of running commentary from Indy, and of course a great view of the camera that I set up and didn't even turn on. What an idiot. So that really is all we've got time for in this episode. It has been a bit of a long one. It's been a hard slog. We managed to get the fencing done to keep them in, kind of. More on that in the next episode, because there were a couple of escaping instances, and I think we've managed to sort it out. But these are our new Highland cows. We've got Vera, Scarlett, Hamish and Dougal, and they are our other fluffy friends who have come to join us on the channel, as well as Tala, who is growing very quickly. She is also going to puppy classes and is very smart and picking up things very quickly, so we're very proud of her. Hi Dougal. So this is Dougal, and then we've got Scarlett, Hamish, her calf, and then Vera, and that's Dougal's mum. So thank you very much for watching. We really appreciate your support. Remember to leave a like, drop us a comment, because we do try to reply to everyone, and don't forget to subscribe, because it really helps our channel grow and helps us bring you more cool content with these cute faces. But for now, that's everything we've got time for, so I'll catch you in the next one. See you around.